Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's weekly market update, week of March 12th, 2017. Now looking at market activity, it's highly competitive and we've got all-time low supplies. So we're looking at the last 10 years of activity and seeing what all of this means. So that and more coming up right next. So it's proven that this market is unlike any other. We're hitting some very, very low supply numbers. You would have seen headlines in the past weeks saying that February was a low that we haven't seen in more than 10 years. We haven't had this low of supply levels in spring in more than a decade. So what does all of that mean? Let's look at that today, but first let's look at the March numbers so far. We've had 159 condos listed in the west side of Vancouver, 145 of those condos selling. So what's coming on the market is essentially selling right away. We're not seeing much inventory left over from that. That's leading to an overall listing count of 637 units on the market, so quite consistent for condos on the west side. In the past 3 months, we just haven't seen that pickup in activity that we expect around this time of year. Now, why does that make this market unlike any other? Well, it makes sense. It makes sense when we look at the activity in contrast to the past 10 years. So right now up on your screen, we've got 10 years of activity. This is showing you prices, that's the green line for the past 10 years plus, and then supply, the bottom two blue lines, which are going towards a downwards trend. That's showing what's happened over the past 10 years. Now there's three major events that we're going to talk about here, and before we switch over to slide, we just see that there is a blip in prices at the very top end right here in February, so we've peaked, and likewise with supply, we're very, very low in terms of the supply numbers. Now, what are the three major events we've seen over the past 10 years? Well, in 2008, 2009, of course, we had the world financial crisis. That did lead to a downturn in prices for condos in Metro Vancouver. As we can see, so over the course of 12 months, prices did drop about 14%, and over the next 9 months, they very quickly recovered to where they left off. Supply had a decreasing trend as well during a period just because sellers weren't selling when prices were dropping. Then over the next about 4 years, we saw what I would call relative stability. So from about 2010 to 2014, we really saw no change in prices. Prices went up slightly, down slightly. The entire variance was plus minus 3% over the course. So really condos flatlined in Metro Vancouver for those 4 years. And the market had a very cyclical trend. So every year we saw sort of those arches going up and down. That's being at the peak, spring, summer markets, and then and drop down. It would have been around the holidays when things do slow down, and the same cycle repeating itself and being very predictable for those 4 years. And then going onwards from about the end of 2014, beginning of 2015 onwards, so last 2 years and a bit, we've seen what we call very strong growth, and we've obviously all experienced that for condos in the last little while. So let's look at that in further detail. So we'll pull it up, and what you're seeing right now is the exact same data. It's just limited to the last 2 and a bit years, just to zoom in a bit. And there's really 3 events here. So between January 2015 and August 2016, so last summer, we saw prices going up 26%. That's very strong growth. Then in August, as we recall, major changes came into our marketplace, regulation came into our marketplace, foreign buyers were curbed with a foreign buyer tax, some other activities happened as well, and we saw participants starting to refrain from acting in the market, sort of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what will happen. And that led to a bit of a slowdown. And we saw prices dropping, but now we know that that was a relatively very small drop, about 2 to 3% down for condos as a benchmark in Metro Vancouver. The variance was between 510,000 to 512,000 during the period of about 6 months. And then now, starting in 2017, we're seeing prices increasing quite rapidly again. February is at an all-time record-breaking high for benchmark prices. The average benchmark property is now 526,000 in Metro Vancouver. And if we look down at supplies right below that, we can see that supplies have dropped quite heavily, and that's why we're seeing that February is the lowest supply we've seen for any February in the past 10 years plus. It's the lowest in this entire chart. And that is what's driving this market. So we've got very low supply. We're not seeing supply coming on in the amount that it should around springtime, as it traditionally does, and that is driving up prices. So this market is unlike any other. If you're participating in it, whether you're buyer or seller, it's important to work with a professional that understands the numbers and understands what's happening in the marketplace, and I'd be more than happy to assist in any way that I can. So if you have questions, feel free to call or text me at the number right below. And of course, if you like these videos, I hope you like this Facebook page, because we do post here every single week. So until this time next week, have a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.